Hey guys, thanks for listening to another Jags podcast, episode 45. Just wanted to give you a heads up that we had some technical difficulties with our microphones, so the sound quality on this one is not like our usual ones, but we had some good conversations, so we wanted to release it anyways. We recorded another episode this week, answering all of your Twitter questions, so be looking for that to be released tomorrow as episode 45B. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
Another one. Touchdown, Jags! Ball game!
Another Jags podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to another Jags podcast, episode 45. The weather in Jacksonville is very fitting today. Gloomy, rainy, bitter, and cold. Just like our Jacksonville Jaguars right now, as they lose again, this time to the Buffalo Bills, falling the Jaguars now to 3-8 on the season. They have not won since September 30th. That is 2 full calendar months since the last victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to get into all the news of the day. Blake Bortles being benched, Daniel Hackett being fired, Leonard Fournette being suspended, Andrew Norwell going to the IR. It's been a great day for the Jaguars. We have our full cast with us tonight, Joey, Jason, Robert, and myself. We're going to get all that stuff as well as Twitter questions. But before we dive into the black abyss that is the Jacksonville Jaguars, we want to remind everyone that we are on Twitter at Another Jags Pod, Facebook and Instagram, Another Jags Podcast. You can go to YouTube, find us there, type in Another Jags Podcast, and you'll see all of our episodes. Or just go to our website, anotherjagspodcast.com.
Which is about as bad as the Jaguars now, so it's kind of fitting.
I think our website is better.
At this point, maybe
our website is definitely better.
All right,
yeah,
that's where we're at.
So guys, let's get into it. Let's do Bortles first. I think that is a bigger story than Nathaniel Hackett getting fired. Came out today. Bortles is benched. Cody Kessler, Jason's boy, is now
about time.
Is now the starter. Give me your thoughts. What do you think? Is this the right time? Is it too late? Does it matter at all?
It's absolutely too late. Are you kidding me? Why even make this move at this point? Like, why? Like, the only reason to make this move is if you're hoping that Kessler shows you something to where he's going to be the starter next year. Why else would you do that? Like, why else would you try to win games at this late in the year?
For me, it wouldn't even be trying to win games. It's that something doesn't terrible happen with Bortles and you can't get anything for him.
You're not getting anything for Bortles at this point.
I mean, you could get something as a backup for him. Most of the backups in the NFL are going to be making what he makes next year, maybe less. I mean, let's say we get him and someone takes him for $10 million. Even if we take a cut off of that, that's still what most backups are going for right now. So it's like someone could pick him up as a backup for that much money. But if he gets hurt, you don't get any of that money back.
I think it's too late. It's the right time, and it doesn't matter. Because, I mean, really, it's all those things. Yeah. Like, we should have been able to make a change earlier. We couldn't, because what are we going to do? It doesn't matter because, I mean, our offensive line can't pass block. Our receivers can't catch. We've got a quarterback coach as offensive coordinator now. I mean, really, like Jason said, who cares? I mean, maybe we can get something for Kessler. Maybe he'll come out and, like, shine a little bit and get something for him, possibly. But, dude, it really doesn't matter.
I think what Jason said is right on. I think this is a prove to Kessler to see if they can ride him out next year in either hopes to draft a quarterback with the first pick in the first, not the first overall pick, their first pick in the first round, and see if he can sit under Kessler. I don't know. Other than that, I think it's just seeing what else you have. But to me, this whole day has reeked of more than just what we're getting face value. This to me was almost a statement move by Marrone. I mean, we can read between the lines a lot of this stuff, but to me, what it boils down to is I think Marrone is making a statement here. He's done with Bortles. He's not gonna. If he's going down, he's going down with at least some other guy.
I think it's the only good thing that could have come out of today is that Marrone actually probably got to do what he wanted to do for the past couple months, weeks, whatever. But I mean, it still isn't going to make much of a difference, man. I mean, that's the thing.
No, I don't think this is about winning and losing.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I think mentally, yes, you had to make a change. He stepped in. Bortles and Hackett are the fall guys for a lot of problems.
My thing is, if they even with a glimpse in their mind thought that Kessler could potentially be even a short-time starter for next year, that shows so much not being smart at all to say that he could have been the starter 6 games ago. I mean, I wouldn't even fathom that could be something they're thinking about, because if they didn't think he could take over 3, 4, 5 games ago, where do we think he could take over and possibly start even 2 games next year? I'd be looking to get rid of him. I would use him as a showcase to hopefully get some money for him, get rid of him as well, and then either find an older, even if they're not great, a veteran quarterback, and bring in a new rookie quarterback through the draft and let them kind of be their sideline coach.
Let's go this route. So is Kessler going to bring back Lee? Is he going to bring back a starting left tackle? Is he going to bring back a starting tight end? Is he going to bring back a starting center? Is he going to bring back a running back who is an absolute idiot? Jason, I'll throw it to you because Kessler's your boy.
Yes. To answer your question, he's going to revive all of them from the injury report.
Man, he's like Jesus.
And he's not going to do that stuff, but what he's going to do is he's going to get the ball out. He's going to throw the ball. I mean, I'm just tired of seeing Bortles. I get the offensive line is bad, but get it out. Throw it. Like, throw it to the short route. Do something. Like, you can't do what Bortles is doing. You can't. I mean, even throws he's making to guys, they're not accurate. He's hitting guys like behind him and in front of them, and he's just not even giving the guys a shot. And the offense doesn't trust him so much, he doesn't even get a chance to throw. And it's just this. I mean,
listen, I'm not going to defend Blake Bortles anymore because it's time for him to go. But I mean, Bortles is broke, and he's broke because of the Jags, and he's broke because of the front office. O'Shaughnessy, is that Bortles' fault? Cole. Why is Cole still on the team? That game, we lost that game more because of Cole.
That was a bad. That's the throw I'm talking about, though. That was not a good throw.
It wasn't a great throw, but it hit him in the hands.
What
about the holding on the touchdown? I mean, Cole should not be on the roster anymore.
Okay, the holding I can't defend, but the throw was absolutely horrendous.
It was a horrible throw. I get that. It was
terrible.
But it was capable of good throws as well and making plays. He no longer is.
I mean, I'm not defending Cole.
60 pass plays 3 or 4 games ago to 15? Really?
I'm not defending Cole.
He looked woefully bad on Sunday. Bortles did, and I hear what you're saying, Joey. I agree. Bortles has had bad games in the past, and he looked different in those games. In this game, his body language, everything that you saw from him after every play on third downs when they wouldn't convert, he was halfway to the sideline before the whistle was even blown. Every single time.
I agree.
I mean, he's just there's something there that he is broke. That's a great way to put it. And he's on a team that doesn't believe in him, and he knows it. Yet he's like a pawn in some weird game, I feel like, right now between the front office and the head coach. And it's very bizarre to watch. And it just really is embarrassing to me more than anything. I think Bortles is going to be one of those players. Maybe he's a career backup in the NFL, who knows, but he is going to benefit so much from a fresh start somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he is the quintessential example of that. He's going to go somewhere else and be a completely different person. And I hope so, because I like Bortles. I think we all do here. We like the guy.
Absolutely. That's the hard thing about it is.
Yeah. I felt sorry for him and Hackett at the same time on Sunday watching that game. You have this offensive coordinator that you know is going to be gone. It was just a matter of time, who has a quarterback that he cannot work with. You can't blame him. And then you're watching Bortles, and it's just like he's given up in a way, but not of his own doing. He's like a child in a broken, family.
It's like the fight's gone. Like, right. It's like, why fight anymore because this, and this.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it's just, he wants to move on. Which, I mean, you can't be too sorry for him because he's getting paid, but he's given us some heart and soul, man. So I hate to see him go, but it is time for him to go.
The other reason I kind of think they're benching him now, even though I think it means nothing for the season itself, so he doesn't get hurt. I mean, we have Linder out for the season. We have Norwell now going to be out for the season. We have no offensive line anymore. So that means he's just going to get destroyed even more than he did this past Sunday. I mean, I just wouldn't risk it either. I mean, even if you're not going to use him next season, why risk him getting hurt?
Yeah, but you look at a team like I watched, the Packers play the Vikings, and they're completely decimated with injuries. and they don't look that incompetent. Like they go exactly, but
and the Packers, man. I mean, you're the Packers.
I mean that doesn't mean
Jaguars-
anything.
No,
I'm just saying they're as injured. they're as injured as we are on the offensive line. They don't have a running back, so the fact that our running back was injured is probably the same with them. I mean, they have one good receiver, Jimmy Graham. They have that, but it's not like they're in a better situation up front than we are. And Aaron Rodgers creates times with his legs, and he gets rid of the ball quickly.
Yeah, but dude, you're talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback, which Bortles never was, and we knew that going into everything. He isn't that guy. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Peyton Manning. He's not Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's only a handful of those
He's
guys.
not even Blake Bortles anymore.
He isn't. But I mean, he was good enough to lead the team and make some plays. And now, because of the team and the front office and him, it's impossible. I hope he goes somewhere, is a backup, gets a chance to start because somebody gets hurt, and he has another chance. But
Well, let me ask you this, because we've kind of said that a couple times. With this benching, is this the last time we've seen Blake Bortles play for the Jaguars?
no,
Okay, so if he's back next year, in what capacity?
I think he's back next year for a 3 or 4 game starter, and hopefully Will Grier, somebody of his class, comes in and finishes off the season, and we get rid of Bortles after next year.
I think it depends on how the season plays out. Kessler goes down with an injury, or he looks terrible too, and then Bortles comes back in and it looks like Bortles. I could see a situation like Joey just described, but I mean, fans would probably riot.
Okay,
if
well, an injury,
that
I
happens.
agree. But
No, I'm just talking about I'm talking about this year. Like, but if Kessler keeps the job, there's no Bortles doesn't come back. I say they'll just cut him. They won't even keep him around.
injury, I agree. But if Kessler comes in and plays bad, why put Bortles in?
Just like you said, what if you draft a quarterback next year? You don't want to throw him to the fire right away. Throw Bortles to the fire for a little bit, and then put him in, give him some time, and put him in. But that's why I think it all hinges on the play of Kessler. That's why he should have been put in after the London week. We had a bye week, and then
I agree with that.
then we'd right now, if we had done that, we'd be, let's say he was terrible. We'd be in the same position we're in now. We haven't won any games since then. And at least we would have an idea of where we need to go with the quarterback this year. Now look at us. We're in this position where we're having to evaluate late in the season, just like we did last year when we fired, or 2 years ago when we fired Bradley with 2 games left in the season. We had to evaluate a coach in 2 games when we could have fired Bradley halfway through that year and gotten a better chance to evaluate what we have. And I'm just tired of the front office doing this. They're handcuffing themselves by making these decisions so late in the season.
I was going to say that's all the front office decision on Blake currently. Or do you think that might have been more of a Hackett move, trying to stay with Blake? I mean, obviously the front office is going to have their say in this. But do you think Hackett was a lot of the reason of hanging on to Blake, and that's ultimately why he got fired now? Or do you think that was full-blown front office telling Marone they have to run out Bortles this long?
I'll tell you who it wasn't a call of was the quarterback coach, because he gets promoted in the interim and immediately bitches Blake, which says a lot. I mean, that says a lot about Blake. But no, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's the front office wanting to stick with him, and I disagree that it's too late as far as that kind of scenario goes, because we have 4 games. So there's plenty of time to see if Kessler is going to be the guy who we can keep and maybe nurture a new quarterback and let Bortles go and save $3.5 million, or Kessler's going to suck. We get rid of him, keep Bortles, eat the $21 million, and have him do it. I mean, what does it matter? Win or lose from the next 4 games, we're going to know that at the end of the season. So we know what we know.
I mean, I'd rather have half of a season to evaluate the quarterback situation than 4 games. Is what I'm
4
saying.
games is plenty, and 3 of those are conference games.
Fine.
Well, whatever.
Come on, Joey.
3 of those are conference games. That's plenty of time.
To me, going back to Jason's point about why he wasn't benched after the Eagles game in London after the bye, talking about Bortles, I do think there was a mandate from the front office to the coaches that you will start Blake Bortles, because the front office, namely Dave Caldwell, is married to Blake Bortles. As Caldwell, or as Bortles goes, so does Caldwell. And so if this is Bortles' last stint with the Jaguars, if we've seen the last of him, at least on the field, I think you're looking at a new GM. I mean, I really do, because every GM is attached to the hip with their quarterback. Okay, it's not just that he picked him last year. This is the guy that he picked early on in his tenure. Not only did he pick Bortles, but he passed on several other young, successful quarterbacks. He put all the chips in with Blake Bortles, and it did not work out. It has not at all. And so if that's the case, if he's gone, you have to get rid of Caldwell. You have to.
Do you think they get rid of Caldwell, or he just gets put in timeout? And the czar of Tom Coughlin just takes over altogether, but he's ceremoniously the GM. Just can't do anything. He just sits there.
I think if they get rid of anybody else, I hope the guy's Caldwell.
It has to be.
I think if they got rid of Caldwell, replaced him, or let Coughlin take over his duties and kept Bortles and Marone and everybody else, I'd be good with that. I mean, it's got to be Caldwell at this point. I mean, he's the guy that's made the decisions. I mean, Caldwell brought Kessler in. If you want to talk about who brought who in, I mean, I don't trust our front office at this point, who makes the personnel decisions, to pick a quarterback, period.
Here's my thing, guys. I'm going to be real with y'all, right? I don't like this scapegoat game that teams play.
I agree.
It never works. It's never like, oh, we fired the offensive coordinator. That was our problem. Like, and I feel that way to a certain extent about Caldwell. Like, I understand that he has been terrible drafting and signing guys to extensions that are terrible ideas, but I just can't help but wonder how much of it was him and how much of it was Coughlin. Like, since Coughlin was hired, I'd have to imagine that he's making all the big-time transaction decisions, the drafts, the big signings, even bringing in Kessler. So if it is, what's firing Caldwell going to do? I understand he messed up Blake, and he's got I get that. And this is just a bigger point to the Hackett as well. Doug Marone is the CEO of the team when it comes to the coaching staff. You can't blame an offensive coordinator. At some point, it was Marone's duty to step in and say, I'm calling the plays, or we're going to call these plays. Like, the fact that Marone just let him go through and get fired, I don't know. Like, something's fishy. So like James was saying, there's something there. I think there is a rift between the front office and the coaching staff. And it's weird. It's just a weird thing going on. And I don't think this scapegoat game is going to fix our problems. I think we're going to need to do a top-down fixing, because the buck ultimately stops with Coughlin, does it not? So how can we sit here and blame everybody and not mention Coughlin? I know we love Coughlin because he's done so much for our city, but
He's old too now.
he's the head honcho.
We love him because, he was the original coach. We had success, but at the same time, people forget. They were running him out of town when he was, the coach here. And, as time goes by, you forget about all that stuff, and it's human nature to remember only the good things. But, he's been here 2 years now, and when he came here, immediate success, and I think everyone just wanted to attribute all of that to Coughlin. But now here we are kind of back to where we've always been the last decade plus, where we're already out of the playoffs talking about the draft in November. So, yeah, absolutely. Blame has to go to him. And you don't have to look any further than these last couple of games and the play calling that has gone on during these games on the offensive side of the ball to know that there is a rift between the front office and the coaching. I mean, it has been the most bizarre play calling, the worst play calling that you could ever imagine. That guys like us who are never even going to dream about being a coach at any level besides,
Whoa. No,
everybody else, yeah. But I mean, like when we are sitting on our couch saying this makes no sense, and we know what's coming, that's inexcusable to the point where it has to be on purpose, I believe. And so there is some, Marone is trying to make some sort of point with how things have gone, where maybe he's just said, Jason, you're saying that he needs to step in. Maybe he's like, you know what, I'm not gonna. Because this is what y'all want. The front Caldwell, you want Blake in the game? Okay, fine. This is how we're going to do it. Because we don't trust him. Or we're going to show you that he's not capable of it. And then finally I'm going to get my guy. And so this is a bad situation, because when you have the front office and the coaching not seeing eye to eye, that trickles down all the way to the water boy and everyone in between. So it's going to be a rough few months, I believe.
The reason I say Caldwell is because I'm not there. I don't know what is actually going on and what's being talked about. But what you can derive just from the history and from the guys that they are, Marone is not gonna. He doesn't want to lose. He's not going to make a decision to lose. I think he is a winner. Coughlin's the same guy. The guy we don't know about is Caldwell. I don't think Con cares. Con's making money hand over fist either way. He's being the billionaire that he is and the genius that he is. He could care less whether Bortles is starting or Kessler whether we win or lose, as long as it doesn't affect his bottom line, which it's not. So that points to Caldwell being the issue. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I don't think Marone's the issue. I think Marone's a good coach. I think he's done a good job, and you kind of got to trust TC's record.
Caldwell has to go. Come on. I don't know why. I wish they could. I don't know if teams generally fire general managers mid-season. I think some do when it's absolutely terrible, but I'd be fine if they fired him tomorrow.
But today was like a night and day change from the status quo. It was like somebody else got the ability to make decisions, and they made them.
Mm-hmm. And not to get full-blown like conspiracy theory or anything, but
bring on the tinfoil hat.
How weird is that, though, that Hackett gets thrown up for the first time I've ever seen him up in the booth this week, too. It was almost like you're off the field. He didn't play on the field. He plays on the field every single game with the Jaguars. He's up in the booth this game, to the point where they were actually showing him multiple times in the booth because it was such a weird one for him.
It was cold.
Huh?
It was cold, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
He didn't
coach in Syracuse.
I think he didn't want to wear one of those god-awful hoodies.
Yeah.
Oh, man, those were terrible. The hats were terrible, too. What is up with that?
Why are you wearing sleeves? Go short sleeve hoodies still.
That's a good point, though, actually. Have a little distance. I mean, to me, Hackett got fired because he's the most expendable. It's easiest.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing. Look, I mean, it is human nature. These guys, this is their job. This is their livelihood. And they want to keep it. And so you're going to let the guy get fired who is the cheapest, and you can replace probably the easiest. And did anyone see today the pictures of Bob McAdoo in the Jacksonville airport?
Yeah, Ben McAdoo.
Ben McAdoo. Sorry, Ben McAdoo.
Okay, for the non-football elite, who's he?
Ben McAdoo was a former Giants coach, just got fired last year.
It was terrible.
Guy.
He was terrible.
He was, but he also was the only one in that entire organization that had the guts to bench Eli Manning, and he got fired for it. And now look where the Giants are.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, so he's a Coughlin guy. So he's one of those. He's like a Bradley, much better coordinator than he is a head coach.
Yeah, but
I'm just saying, it's awfully coincidental that suddenly he's in the Jacksonville airport the same day that Hackett.
Unless you're like 25, if I haven't heard of you, you're not off some genius. I mean, that doesn't excite me in any way whatsoever.
Coming from the guy who never heard of who was the USC quarterback?
Matt Barkley.
Matt Barkley.
He still sucks.
I do think it's rather interesting.
You know, I was never a fan of Hackett even last year, play calling wise, or this year. I didn't want him back this year, but I did feel. I'm kind of with you, James, but I feel a little bad for him in the sense where he got dealt a raw hand this year. Everyone got hurt on that offense, and then the guys that they did have weren't catching the balls. Blake's not throwing the ball well. I mean, everything that could have went bad for him. Where I'm kind of was leaning more on the side where if someone's gonna get fired, I mean, let's be honest. Todd Wash, I mean, they had a big dip. Their defense is being absolutely ridiculous in immaturity to the point where they're even in London and they're getting busted over there. I mean, I would have understood him being gone more than any of them.
I have to agree that the Hackett and Bortles benching, Hackett firing, Bortles benching distracts from like a lot of the real issues. Because I mean, come on, man, our receivers, offensive line, a running back who, I mean, you want to talk about Fournette? I'd love to talk about Fournette. So can we segue to that? Because come on, man. I mean, yeah, he's an absolute stud. You know, it's like really hard. Really hard is being an unbelievably good vision running back, a physical beast, strength wise, super fast. You know, it's easy having a modicum of freaking self-restraint, not being a complete idiot. I mean, it wasn't spur of the moment. I get defending your team. And yeah, he had a heartfelt apology after the fact, but it wasn't spur of the moment. He was on the sideline, put his helmet on, ran 67 yards across the field, and then did that. Team captain. I mean, don't get me wrong. The guy is an unbelievable football player, but that's unbelievably stupid.
And let's be honest. Did none of us not see this coming? I mean, every play, he's in somebody's face, and he's getting pulled back almost every play. I knew he was going to get in a fight at some point in time. I just didn't know he was going to run off the bench.
It was a heated game from the word go. For some reason, I mean, I guess, are we rivals with the Bills or the Jags?
Yeah, after the playoff game, there was a lot of bad blood.
Yeah, I mean, and we beat them all the way back in the day with Jim Kelly still there, I guess. But I feel like they treat it way more as a rivalry than Jaguars do.
Well, you know what I think? The guy who does the Blake Bortles facts is from like New York, and all year he's just been taunting them on Twitter about that playoff game. And he's probably the biggest Jaguar social media person outside of the team. And he just has been relentless. To the fact where I wondered if he had some sort of like weird beef with them, because every day it was just about the Bills, out the Bills. And I just think we just have been taunting them since that game, and it just kind of spilled over.
Yeah, I mean, that combined with what obviously what Brandon said in the offseason. But it just, I mean, from the first snap, it looked like a.
And Marone.
Well, Marone, too.
Yeah.
So there is that stuff. But yeah, I mean, you were watching it. They were talking on both sides from the very beginning of that game. So it was heated, it was chippy. But yeah, Joe, you're absolutely right. 60 yards, you're going to go run and then swing on a guy? Like, are you kidding me?
With his helmet on.
Right when they're just about to score?
With his helmet on.
With his helmet on.
What's that going to do? Absolutely nothing.
All professional fights like that are such a joke. I mean, the NBA fights kill me every time. They're going at you while leaning back. Waiting.
Hold me back, bro. Hold me back. I got this guy.
Football's the worst because what are you going to do? I mean, what can you do? The game is centered around running into each other as hard as you can, and then you think punching someone's suddenly going to hurt them? It kills me.
I think it over hockey. Drop gloves, take your helmet off, and just go until someone hits the ice.
And all right, so I get the Allen stuff because Ramsey did call him out hard, and good for him. He came back from injury, and he played a pretty good game. But
not really.
He played a good game on his feet.
He had eight completions. He threw the ball. He ran the ball well.
Where was the tackle on that one?
You know what it was? It was a Blake Bortles game.
Yeah, it really was.
Either way, it was kind of a stick it to you game. So whatever.
Yeah.
Good for you. It's sportsmanship, gamesmanship, whatever. It was fun. I actually would like to apologize to Ramsey, though, after everything I've said about him, because I totally get the reason why he was mouthing off at the beginning of the season and all year, because he's the smartest guy on the team. He realized all the holes we had, how lucky last season was, and he wanted to distract from that fact by bringing it on himself. So, Ramsey, good job, buddy.
I'm going to take an unpopular take here. I like what Fournette did. Okay, I do. This team, who's the best player on the offense? Okay. This team needs something like that, like something that's like we're going to actually stick up for each other. Because what has been the knock on this team all year is that they've been playing with no effort. They've been playing with no energy. Looks like nobody wants to be there. No emotion, no passion. So I'm glad that Fournette did this. Because you know what? At least I can identify one player on the team that is still playing with passion. Because
on the offensive side.
No, on the entire team. Okay, I'll give you Ramsey, but Ngakoue has been dog poo. I mean, he's been terrible. This is the second week in a row. He's one of the lowest rated players on PFF on the team.
Miles Jackson, 2 times.
He has not been good. And I'm glad that someone, the fact that he got suspended, isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, the season is over. It's not like, we're one game out. The season's over. Do you think Fournette cares about if he's suspended? I mean, yeah, he's not getting paid, but, dude, the dude is from Louisiana, man. He is going to scrap. And I'm just glad to see someone has passion on this team. And I'm glad that we're going to be rolling into next year with guys like Ramsey and Fournette and not these little softies like Bortles and Church that don't do anything. So I'm glad because this season's over.
Okay, you call him Bortles?
Soft. Just like what James said, the way that his body language this last game was so disappointing.
5 seasons of being nothing, not missing.
Whose fault is that? That's not anyway. That's his fault.
He's not soft. He's not soft.
He was handing the ball off and jogging off of the field.
He's broken.
The dude was emotionless. Dude, he's throwing the ball and then just like
Bortles is soft after all.
Yes, he's soft. He's emotionally soft.
Really? He's never played anybody at all on the team.
The way that he showed no emotion and he has taken no responsibility for this team.
Dude, you can take a pit bull and beat them enough to where they do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Pit bulls are not soft.
Yeah, a weak, soft pit bull.
Pit bull, the musician?
Well, that guy might be soft. And I was actually about to somewhat agree with you with your comment on Fournette, even though I disagree 100% about that was the right way to do it. I get your point because you know who didn't step in and do anything about that with Hyde is the offensive line, who's supposed to have their running backs and quarterbacks back. Not a single guy in the offensive line stepped in.
They're trying not to get hurt.
Yeah, that's where I was nervous.
Hey, Norwell's got a stub toe, and Linder, man, he might not be able to come back. So
I totally get what you're saying, Jason. I do agree with that. But the other thing that will inspire is winning a game. And if he had stayed in, did any of us have any doubt at all that he punches that in?
Oh, of course.
I mean, and then that changes everything. But having said all that, that game, a win there would have made us feel good for, a little bit, but it wouldn't have changed the course of the season. So really, I think we should all be giving Fournette the game ball because what he's done is sped up this entire process.
Yeah.
And now by missing this Sunday's game against the Colts, that's basically guaranteeing another loss for the Jags. So it's just really helping our draft status.
Are you saying we should throw the rest of the season, Chance? Is that what you're saying?
And we don't have to throw it. We just got to go play.
Yeah, there's no throwing.
We our hardest, and we are gonna,
I like our chances better with Kessler in there. To be honest with you,
not this Sunday, but I think against. To me, the only game on the schedule that they have any chance of winning is the Washington.
No, Houston, because they're going to have all their starters pulled out.
If it was a home game, I'd agree, but the Jags they'll be really done, and then traveling. Show up for that game.
At this point, the season's over. It's almost like a weight, like off the shoulders, like as far as like the expectations. And you want to talk about interesting? The past couple of days have been as interesting as it gets.
This day has been very exciting.
And the game itself was. Crazy stuff happening. So whatever, man, bring it.
Actually, what I was more focused on was the Raiders game. I can't remember who they were playing. Someone pretty good. He ended up beating them. But I was watching that because the Raiders were up for a little bit. I'm thinking, oh man, they're about to get to 3 wins. If they win this, and we're going to have the same record. That is where my mind has officially gone now. It is full on draft status. Wins or losses, whatever. Obviously going to root for the Jags to win. I always will, but I'm not upset when they lose because that's just my take because it's about next year at this point. Let's get higher draft picks and see what we can get.
what's also nice is that we know the people listening. There's no more bandwagon fans listening to our podcast.
Yeah,
very true.
This is. If you're listening now, respect.
Hey, I'm even going to take that a step further. There's no more bandwagon podcast.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So we're back to number 1.
No longer is anybody interested in legit podcasts either, though. So you can take it that way too.
Oh.
So right there.
Are we?
You're on Twitter.
What were we talking about? Do we have Twitter questions?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so is there anything you guys want to add to the Blake Bortles benching, Nathaniel Hackett being fired discussion?
Just really quick, this is what I want to add. I've seen Hackett call some good games. It could have been fluky. Could have been he just knows how to call a certain scheme better than others.
He's called some great games.
He's called some great games. And if you think for a second that the problem is Hackett and Bortles, then you are massively wrong.
Wait, you say the problem is Hackett and Bortles?
If you think the problem is Hackett and or Bortles, and that this team will be fixed because we have a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback, you're mistaken. Because there's issues all over the place.
That's the best way to sum it up. I agree.
I don't know. I agree, but I think you got to get rid of Caldwell and Bortles. To me, Hackett is almost a non-factor.
I agree.
But Bortles is absolutely to blame. But depending on who you bring in, if you bring in a rookie or whatever, we're still going to struggle. I think. Well, let me ask you guys this before we go on, because we're going to get to Twitter questions here really soon. Is Todd Wash the defensive coordinator next year? Robert brought it up earlier. Is he coming back?
I think he is, and this is why. There's no way that another coordinator is going to want to come to Jacksonville if they have both the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, yet the same head coach there. Why would you want to go to that and risk?
You could promote from within. You could promote like a linebackers coach.
Yeah, how often is that? Really,
it doesn't ever usually work out, but there was a span we went through 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. You could fill the spot.
I'm not a coordinator by any stretch of the imagination.
You're not.
What defensive coordinator would want to come in with that talent?
I think it's a good job.
If you're like a younger, medium to above average defensive coordinator, would you not want to come there for a year and possibly get like a head gig somewhere?
Why not?
I would think that would be a possibility personally.
They talk about there only being 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL, and all of them are attractive. I think the same can be said with a coordinator job, especially here, like Joey said, with the talent we have.
But again, I think he's back next year for sure.
I don't know. I'm going to say this, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about this all season. But
which starts next week.
It starts this year. But I don't know. For some reason, I think you get a couple guys that are locker room guys that can steady the ship a little bit in terms of getting some of the immaturity off the field a little bit, getting a quarterback that can manage the game a little better. I don't see this team as being that far off from at least 7 wins next year. I'm not saying they're going to go and make a playoff run, but I just don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be 3-13 next year. I really don't.
I'm going to make a bold prediction now for next season on the defense because that's my favorite thing to do. Jalen Ramsey becomes that guy next year. He becomes the defensive captain, becomes the locker room leader, and becomes that guy that rallies the people around him. That's going to happen.
Joey.
I was gonna say until he does one thing next week, and then all of a sudden you're the biggest Ramsey hater on earth.
I was never a Ramsey hater. I was a hater of his
I'm going to
immaturity.
just blow right past that comment. Do you like Ramsey? It sounds like you kind of like him.
I didn't say I like him. I love him as a football player. As a immature young kid, not a fan. The way he's reacted the past 3 to 4 weeks to that, I like what I see. I think he's maturing.
I think he wants to win. I think he is a leader. I love him. Still, I said this in the offseason. He's my favorite Jaguar of all time. I stand by that still.
Yeah.
Everything he's done is amazing.
I love him too. I don't see his personality be able to do that without flipping out on people. I just see him as being his own guy, living on his own island, buddies with everyone else, but not like a pause kind of guy. I mean, not obviously completely different, but like the leader and holding the defense together. He seems like the guy when he gets mad, he runs off in his own little corner.
But he hasn't done that.
I agree with Joey. I've seen it.
I was gonna say he's at Florida State.
Yeah, he's flipped the switch.
Yeah.
There's something different about him, even from just June and July till right now. There is, and I'm excited to see that. I agree 100% with that. So anyway, that was just throwing that out there. Jason, you want to expound on anything about there being more than just Hackett Bortles?
You can't, like you kind of mentioned it. We all saw the issues with this team, and they weren't addressed. Call it Caldwell, call it Coughlin. I have a tendency to blame Coughlin more than Caldwell, and I've given my reasons why. And I think people want to blame Caldwell and not Coughlin. People want to blame Hackett and not Marone, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Why blame the underlings of these guys who are really making all the decisions? People just don't want to do it. They don't want to ruffle feathers, and we can't get it. If we get a new head coach, then we're definitely rebuilding. If we get a new GM, we're definitely rebuilding, or a new vice president of operations. Yeah, you're right. But if you don't address the problem, we're going to be doing this over and over again. You can't look at the team and be like, we don't need a tight end or receiver in free agency. That could come in. I mean, I understand we got Safarian Jenkins, but you can't not draft a tight end, and you can't not sign a wide receiver veteran person. You can't bolster up the offensive line anymore than they did. These are all problems that we saw, and they just did nothing about it. And I just think they're an arrogant bunch. I mean, this Coughlin and Marone want to play football like they did in the 80s. And after watching that game, that was the Chiefs and the Saints. That's not what the NFL is anymore. So that may be a bigger problem than Bortles. We all saw what happened with the Chiefs and Rams. And if these guys want to play football like they did in the 80s, what other team is doing that successfully? Nobody. So we may have to address that problem before we fix any other problems about quarterbacks and contracts and defense and any of that stuff.
It's an interesting thing too, because knowing you as a defensive guy for the most part, do you think defense holds the same validity in this league anymore as the offense do? Because the top 5 teams in the league are 100% offensive driven, pretty much only. Well, I will say the way you can't hit anymore, nothing.
Well, I will say that defense becomes much more important in the postseason. In the regular season, offense will win you games, but it's proven, and maybe not with the new rules. We're kind of in unprecedented times, so I'm just speaking off of what's kind of happened recently. But when you get to the postseason, the defenses kind of take over a little bit more, and that's what I think it's going to take when you get to the playoffs. But if you can't get there, then there's no point. Then it doesn't matter.
Offense definitely wins games. Defense wins championships. But you got to win those games to get to those championships. But think about this, though. I mean, who's been here longer, Caldwell or Coughlin and Marone?
Caldwell.
Okay, so who failed to see the change coming?
But how much power does Caldwell have? That's the
bottom
thing.
line. Which nobody knows.
Nobody
Who
knows.
stands on who's making the calls is the thing.
Right.
So
I mean, we will never know.
We will never know.
And
Here's why I continue to call for Caldwell being gone. Because Coughlin wasn't here when he drafted Bortles. He wasn't here when Caldwell extended Gus Bradley's contract. This isn't just a 2-year deal. Caldwell has made mistakes going back to when he first took over the job. And it's time that he step aside or they let him go or whatever, because he has done very little right and many things wrong. And I totally get what you're saying, Jason. We're not looking at Coughlin a lot as much as we should. But he's only been here 2 years. One of those years was a very big success. This year, not so much. Caldwell, on the other hand, he's won 26 games. The Jaguars have won 26 games since he's been the general manager. That's enough for me.
I wish I had that kind of job security.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, too. I mean, other than Jalen Ramsey, who has he really, truly hit on as a first-round pick? I understand that's hard, but in 5 to 6 years, you got to hit at least
It's
two.
not that hard.
Fournette's good.
Yeah. That was a gimme, though. Anyone would have picked Fournette.
Same. Jalen Ramsey, even more so, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
I think it's what James said. That's dead on. We've got a track record with Caldwell. We don't necessarily have one with TC and Marone. Caldwell should take the blame. He's been here longer. He's made more decisions. He's built the team over a period of time, and he's built a team that can't compete in a different league now.
All right, guys, thanks for listening to episode 45. Again, we apologize for the sound quality. We have gotten it fixed. Be looking for our next episode being released tomorrow, where we answer all of your Twitter questions about the latest happenings with the Jacksonville Jaguars this last week. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Another Jags Pod and Facebook and Instagram at Another Jags Podcast. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Jags.